Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle with another episode of Christian News and Views, and this is episode 120. And so today we are looking at Social Security backs off in-person verification. Now this may not affect a lot of you, it depends upon your age. My age, Social Security is something you have to contend with. And it doesn't affect me personally because I haven't had any trouble with the website or anything like that, which has been some of the complaints that's been coming up. But in any case, it's newsworthy. And so I thought I'd cover that today. I'll read you the article and then give my comment on it. After pushback from Social Security recipients, the Trump administration will not require in-person visits to confirm identity for some services. The Social Security Administration said those applying for retirement, survivors and spouse, or child benefits had to do it in person. However, hundreds protested locally and nationwide recently. Many called elected officials and signed an American Association of Retired Persons pledge to save the telephone services at the Social Security Administration. ARP and other advocates contend these changes would create hardships for those with disabilities and older adults without transportation or internet access or who live far from a Social Security office. According to the ARP, there are growing complaints that the Social Security website is unreliable and had frequent outages. The online portal crashed 5 times in March alone, including a full outage March 31st. The administration announced in a series of posts on X that beginning on April 14th, Social Security will perform an anti-fraud check on all claims filed over the phone and flag claims that have fraud risk indicators. The Department of Government Efficiency said the crackdown was needed on telephone verification to reduce fraud where scammers called and impersonated a beneficiary to have benefits redirected to their own bank account. I'm going to mark that for a minute because I want to comment on that. The DOGE anti-fraud team implemented new technological capabilities for the Social Security Administration to perform anti-fraud check on all claims filed over the phone. The new software allows the SSA to flag abnormal behavior in a person's account. Individuals who have been flagged will be required to perform an in-person ID proofing for the claim to be further processed. Any caller flagged for fraud risk will be required to go to a Social Security field office for verification. This is great news for older Americans, said Nancy Lemond, an ARP spokesperson in an April 9th statement. We appreciate SSA listening to ARP and millions of Americans about the impact on their lives and providing better access to customer service for Social Security benefits. ARP and other advocates for older Americans and people with disabilities and says it will not stop fighting for seniors. The Social Security Administration has no plans to shut down any local offices in Port Charlotte, Venice, and Sarasota. So that's the article. And just clarification, I qualify as an older individual. I'm almost 82. And so this is something that it could potentially affect me. It does affect me already as far as Social Security is concerned. But as far as the needs are concerned, there's two sides to this coin. Now, this is let me say this. You've heard me a lot of times say I no longer have confidence in the Associated Press because they have not maintained their level of competency, accuracy, and honesty that they once had. And I've made that statement in a variety of different ways, but that's basically what it is. Well, ARP is another area that I have low confidence in. Some of you out there may have great confidence in them. I qualify for them. They want me to be part of their family, but I have found them not to be reliable in my own case as far as what they say. When I was younger, and I followed ARP to some degree. I even had insurance through them, which turned out to bite me in the back. Um, and so I'm not really too high on them. They're very liberal in what their approach on things. It is good to have an advocate for the elderly, which I'm told I belong to. um, but I'm not sure they're the best advocate. That said, this information is interesting, and I think that it looks like the Social Security is at least listening to them and listening to the complaints. And so that is good. I would much prefer there was some other actors in this that would verify what the ARP is saying. But I'll take the article for what it says, and that they are acting on it. And so today's the 14th, by the way, when all this was supposed to take place. That's why I'm reading this article to you. So there's been some changes because of these complaints. And so I'm not sure exactly, the article doesn't really clarify what those changes are. I tried to look them up, see what it is, but basically what I'm seeing out there is the same as I see here. And so I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this pans out, because what the government is saying is a lot of truth to this. Let's see, here we are. The Department of Government Efficiency said the crackdown was needed on telephone verification to reduce fraud where scammers called and impersonated a beneficiary to have benefits redirected to their own bank account. Now the thing here is that is an actual true statement, because we see it all the time. It's reported in the news time. Scammers. If you are on the computer like I am a lot, then you see it all the time. Scammers. And on newscasts, you see people who are elderly being ripped off. And so this is something, it's a problem, and they do have to address it. And so if they can't do some things, they might come up with other options. And this article didn't go into any options like that. But the thing is that is a real situation that needs to be dealt with. The DOGE anti-fraud team implemented new technological capabilities for the Social Security Administration to perform anti-fraud check on all claims filed over the phone. So, again, reading this article, is this one of the things that led to them saying that everybody's going to be have to come in for in-person verification, or is this after they made adjustments to the complaints? And it don't really say this. I'm getting the impression that this is what it was, and then the complaints came in and put a halt to that. But if that put a halt to it, then we need to see what kind of solution they're going to come up with. Now, anti-fraud, like I said, is a major problem. And so there needs to be something done. Social Security, one of the sad things about Social Security is that you and I, as young people, were forced to put our money in there. We didn't ask for it. We didn't want it. I would have opted out of it if they'd given me the chance, but they didn't. So when we get to this age, many are in a position where they have to do it. Some people lost a ton of money in 2008 and when the bubble burst, and many have lost it since then. their IRAs and other investments they had. But those IRAs are probably now recovering strongly. But the Social Security is always being threatened. Now, the Democrats will say the Republicans are threatening to do it. That's never been the case. That's the case that the Democrats make against them. The real case is Congress, which is made up of both parties, borrows money from Social Security. Money that was meant to take care of retirees. And what they do is they give an IOU back to the Social Security Administration, and which goes into their, I call it their worthless file. It will never be used because the government can't afford it. The government overspends constantly. That's why DOGE is so important, is to get the government back on a financial footing that will enable them to honor their commitments. So right now they're trying to save money wherever they can. They're trying to identify fraud. And I think sometimes they're moving too fast. I understand why. The Social Security, if you go back, they've been predicting the end of Social Security for a number of years now. Not because some party wants to do away with it, but because of both parties, members of both parties voting to borrow money from Social Security, money that doesn't ever get paid back. So I would like to see the federal government pay back some of that. It doesn't have to be all at one time. Even a little bit will help. Now, when I say a little bit, I'm not talking about $10 or $20. I'm talking about thousands of dollars, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a little bit compared to what they've borrowed. But the thing is that Social Security is often, it's been a political toy for the Democratic Party. They like to tell the voters out there, especially around election time, if you vote for this person, they're going to take Social Security away from you. Well, Social Security is not that easy to take away, if you look at it. And so I wouldn't put any stock in statements like that. The greater danger is borrowing money for pork, congressional pork, usually, or some plan they have, some concept that they vote into and they want to finance it, and they need money to finance it, and they take it from Social Security. And so that is something that has been a concern for a long time. That's not new. That's been going on for a long time. Well, what happens is it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And so I understand the need to verify. Some of the people they've said are on there and couldn't possibly be alive. They're like hundreds of years old. I think there was one that was said that was older, literally older than the country. So we know there's fraud. Excuse me. We know there's fraud, but they need to have a plan, and they need to really examine it. This is one time where you might need to sit back and take a step back a little bit, catch a breath, and just look at it, because the fraud is so intermingled with everything else that to try to get to that fraud, it looks like if they don't find a better way, it's going to impact those of us who are innocent of any wrongdoing. And so that's something they have to do, maybe in a piecemeal way, not so broad. They want to have results, they want to have them fast, but sometimes you just can't do it that fast, simply because of what's usually called unintended consequences, which is what this has been. As far as websites Falling, I don't use the Social Security website that often. Whenever I have used it, I've had no real problems with it. So I don't know what that's about. Like I say, I haven't had any experience in that. I go on there. They have made some changes, and I had to go in there and this is actually before Trump got in office that I had to make some changes. And so there's always changes that have to be made as they update and improve on the website. And so the problems when you're working with a computer, there's all sorts of problems that can pop up. And so that's something we need to understand. But in the face of that, I think this is a legitimate complaint here that people my age who don't have transportation, I've got transportation, they don't have transportation, so they end up not being able to go unless somebody else takes them. So there's got to be some thought put into that. And so I think that's what Social Security is doing now. They pulled back on that. They're taking a closer look, and they'll probably come out maybe this year, maybe next year, on new and improved ways, and hopefully definitely improved. Um, so it's a very important issue, and it's one that requires some thought. And it's just not going to be one that you can. It's not something that like Trump can go and negotiate with you. It's something that has to be worked out, especially as far as the website is concerned, and technical stuff. But also they have to get down to the human side, and we got to. You're going to have to put some blinders on and maybe some earmuffs too, because there's a lot of people out there, and ARP is part of that. Where they put out, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, mind you, but to me they put out misinformation. Now they may believe it's true. I'll even grant them that. But they use sources that are suspect. And so, but on the other side, those who complain about the ARP, like such as myself, we have to watch our resources as well. So there's going to have to be some thought put into this whole thing, and measure it and try to come up with something that works, because I think ARP would agree with this. I'm not sure. I don't talk to them or anything like this. But if they're truly interested in us as people, as us elderly people, if they're truly interested in our well-being, then they want Social Security not only to survive for the short term, but for the long term. And fraud is an enemy of that. Extensive fraud, such as they're finding, is an enemy of that. You can't just sit back and just, well, we hold off, don't do anything about that. It's not going to go away, it's just going to get worse. And so something has to be done. What I would like to see, and this thought just popped into my mind, so I haven't done any research on it, but what I would like to see is DOGE and ARP and a few other agencies that might have an interest in this sit down at the table and lay things down and say, well, this is what we're looking at, and share information, preferably out of sight of the newspapers, because they take it, they will spend all sorts. Somebody will bring up an idea that will make it into the newspapers, even though that idea never actually ends up being accepted. You need to have some meetings on a low scale where the newspaper media is not invited. They'll say, oh, they have to be, it's the law. Well, then find a better way, because when the news media gets involved in things, they're not the news media of the old, of when I was a kid or a young man, and they don't follow the rules. And that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, and I've seen nothing to change it. When I used to be that I could pick up the paper and read it, I get the opinion on one page and the facts on the other. And I had a choice of you agreeing with that opinion or not. Nowadays, the opinion is mixed in right with the news. And that is a bad thing. It's not a good thing at all, but it's what they're apparently taught in college. And then they get out with the attitude, well, we've got to tell the American people what to believe and how to vote. No, you don't. Your job is to tell us the facts and then let us make our own minds up. Well, that's it for today. I do want to uh, invite you to, if you like this channel, right down below here is I call it an icon, but it's where you can go and you can click on it, and it will go to where you can subscribe to my channel, TR Independent Books, and you can get this podcast, Christian News and Views, right to your channel. You can also get the other, I have another podcast called Becoming a Published Author is Fun. That's where I give out free information to anybody who wants to be an author, to be a published author especially, and it's free information that you can use. Now, to use it, you may have to go and buy a service or hire a service. You may have to do that. Or you can do it by yourself, depending upon what you decide to do as to whether it costs you any money. But it costs you no money at all to get the idea from me and to consider it, look at it, and to make your decision. If you do subscribe, then I am encouraged, and I do all in my power to create episodes that will inform, encourage, and inspire you. That's my commitment to you. I make it just about every episode that I make that commitment to you. And every episode, I can say this with all honesty, I try to make this the best episode I can to give you the facts and give you my opinion separate from the facts. And then you can take it and do with it as you want. Hopefully, if you're an author watching the other podcast, you will come away with ideas of how to be a better author, all for free. If you're here and watching the news, hopefully this news gives you a different way of looking at things, gives you some thought, something you can think about. You may end up disagreeing with me. That is fine. You may even comment. I do check my comments, and if you disagree with me, I will note that, and it may end up on this show, or it may end up, I might make a reply right there in the comments. In either case, I'm glad you came by today, and I will see you in the next episode.